You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It's takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Sometimes we need to slow down and remember the simple pleasures in life. Good coffee, good books, and good company. Come on in. Take a seat. The coffee's just been brewed. Let's see who we have in the coffee shop today. Well, it's such a lovely day. I may have to stroll around the patio today. Here at the coffee shop, let's see who I can find to talk books with. There's a book on a table. It's titled Obedience. And I believe that's V.G. Kilgore, otherwise known as Vera. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Awesome to find you in the coffee shop with your book.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell me about Obedience?
It's biblical fiction more from a historic perspective. I consider some of the aspects of the story in the Bible and try to provide some kind of logic to them or even ask more questions.
Sounds fascinating. So what are your main characters in the book?
Well, it's about the biblical flood. So, of course, there's Noah, and Ham is my protagonist because one of the principles of the story is that he has been given a really difficult interpretation in history. History used to justify slavery and harsh treatment of people for centuries.
Okay. And so is that an issue you tackle in the book?
To an extent. He's an outsider. That part of it is clear from the beginning. But of course, he doesn't become the object of scorn until the end of it. So when the incident occurs that results in his being disowned and his son being sent off.
Wow. Sounds like it's a pretty gripping tale. So are you fascinated by stories we don't know a lot about in general, or do you tend to focus on the biblical stories?
I am interested in biblical stories because I think so much of our understanding of different events or misunderstanding of different events begins with biblical stories. Like I said, with Obedience and Ham and his ostracization and Noah's curse was used to justify slavery.
Wow, that's a pretty moving statement. And I have to admit I'm not up on my Bible stories, but I might have to go back and look that one up.
Okay.
So do you retell the actual story from the Bible, or do you give the references that you're basing your story off of?
The story begins with Noah telling his family that he has been called to build the ark and that the flood will come. And of course, it takes many years to build the ark. And like I said, Ham is sort of an outsider, and he bonds even closer with his wife, Lita, whom he adored. And by the time that the flood comes, their children are grown, and there's a lot of relationships building because these are the people who are going to repopulate the world.
Sounds fascinating.
I hope so.
So are you the type of author who plots everything out from beginning to end? Are you the hybrid where you know plot point A, plot point B, or are you the type that you just sit down, start writing, and see which direction your characters run?
I just sit down and start writing because I have an idea, usually of one thing, and then it just develops over time.
How long did it take you to write Obedience?
Well, I started writing it on a writing website. So I was doing a chapter at a time. And originally it was just supposed to be like a 2-chapter story. But I kept getting feedback on it, and they were saying you need to do this and this and this. And it just got longer. So doing it that way and working on other things at the time too. And also I was still working then. It took about 2 years.
2 years isn't the longest I've heard in the coffee shop, so I'd say you're just fine. I think the longest was something like 15 years. They picked it up and put it down over the whole course.
Yeah.
So you...
And sometimes you have... I'm sorry.
No, what were you going to say?
Just sometimes you have an idea, but you're not sure exactly where it's going to go, and have to keep pulling it out, like you said, and thinking about it and starting over again.
So you chose the self-published method. I apologize. You chose the self-published method. What made you choose self-published?
Well, I have friends who were self-publishing, and I decided it was something I should try while I was still querying books to agents and publishers in the meantime. And at that point, it was just a matter of which one I was going to use to self-publish, and I chose Obedience.
So do you have other manuscripts in the works?
I'm not working on another book at the moment, but like I said, I'm querying 2 or 3.
So you're trying to do kind of both self and traditional publish?
Yes.
Self-published has not become the stigma it once was, so that's a bonus.
Right.
So did you design this cover yourself, or did you hire someone to design it for you? How did you get the beautiful cover on your book?
I have a friend who is a very good cover maker, and she gave me an idea for it. In the end, I chose the 2 pictures to meld together, and it was a collaborative effort.
I think it's great. I think that's one of the things that self-published people can have more influence over their covers.
Right.
And I've often heard that it's a reason that people go the self-published route.
Yeah, I've seen some people who have had their covers done by somebody in an agency or something like that, and it really wasn't their vision.
So is that something you took into consideration when you're going self-published, that you could control everything down to the cover?
That is one aspect of it, yes. I also like the idea of not having to change. For instance, I was explaining the underlining idea of my book, but if I'd gone the traditional route, it's possible that they might have wanted me to pump up something that I might not have considered as relevant.
Are your stories character-driven in that you mentioned you just kind of let your characters run away with the plot, so you have no idea what's coming next with your characters, or do they just surprise you?
Well, I usually have an idea about what the ending is going to be when I start, so it's just what's going to happen in the middle. And sometimes it is a surprise, a particular action that's going to take place or something like that, or I have to mull over what's going to be a big dramatic point. But I'm still probably pretty much in charge.
Did you hire an outside editor, or did you do all the editing yourself, or use critique partners?
I had some critique partners.
That's great. I always think it's important to have a second set of eyes, because while I'm not a writer, I've heard tell of many people being, you're so close to your work, you see what you intended to say, but all the reader has is the words on the paper.
Right. And if it doesn't make sense, then you need someone who cares enough to tell you.
So did you use other writers as your critique partners, or did you use friends, family, all of the above?
Other writers. As far as family, I only want them to see the finished product.
Okay. So how did you come up with the vision for the cover?
I knew I wanted someone who looked like he might be Noah, or not Noah, but Ham. So I went on to Google and made sure that I was getting something from public domain, and I found this gorgeous guy there and decided he would make a great Ham.
That is something I'm not sure all writers think about, is the copyright of the images they use on their book. So it's great that you thought about that.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Oh, yes. I would have hated to have something, and then someone, complain or file suit or horrible things like that.
So do you have your other works that you're querying, are they the same genre?
Almost everything I do has some historical elements in it, but I have an LGBT version of an O. Henry story, a middle grade book about two boys who were students at the library in ancient Alexandria, and a couple of young adult books too.
Wow. You have a number of other ones you're trying to break out with. Well, I'm going to tell you, one of my writer friends just contacted me from a conference, and the writer's name, let me see if I've still got it handy. It was CC Hunter, and she literally, at this writer's conference, had this manila envelope filled with a couple thousand rejection letters that she poured out in front of everybody at the conference. Yeah. She's now a New York Times bestselling author. So
well, hopefully.
I say there's hope for everyone.
Right.
If someone with a 10th grade education and over 10,000 rejection letters can make the New York Times bestseller list, I think there's hope for everybody.
I just have to come up with what everyone wants to read.
I think sometimes you got to tell them what they want.
That's true, too. Marketing is probably the most difficult part.
Has that been your biggest challenge, being self-published?
Yes.
That's what I've heard a lot of authors say. Not all of them mention it on air, but I have heard tell of both traditional and self-published authors who struggle with marketing.
Yeah, it's I didn't expect that when I got into it. I didn't know that was you want to go, of course, and brag about your book, but you don't realize that that's going to be practically a full-time occupation.
My favorite traditionally published author actually does a 1-month book tour with every release. So he spends a whole month doing nothing but talking about his book.
Yeah.
So it is part of the writer's life.
That's right.
What advice would you give to a new writer just starting out?
Well, like everyone says, you do have to have a thick skin. Because first you will need it for the critique partners who are helping you fashion the book. And then you will need it when you send your work out and you encounter the rejections or whatever. And then when it is published, you'll need it again for the reviews that come in. That's like any artistic endeavor, though.
It's all subjective, unfortunately.
Right.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I haven't decided. I mean, we all are different people. We all like different things and different works of art and different stories.
You can think of it as a building character, too.
So is the flood an actual character, so to speak, in your novel?
I describe it, but I don't too much because I already have my characters in the arc at the time. So they experience it, all bundled up in there. So they don't know about the horrors that are going on outside. I can only guess.
And like the Bible, did you include all the animals?
Well, I do have the parade of animals being brought on, and there are a couple of incidents in the ark for the year in which it's sailing that involve the animals.
That's great, because I could just imagine an elephant shifting their weight could really throw that boat off balance a little.
Right. That's one of the things that they talk about. They're afraid it's going to sink, so a woman that they have to listen to, suggests that they balance things out more.
So are you still working, or are you retired, or?
I retired a couple of years ago.
Has that given you more time for your writing?
Yes, it's given me quite a bit more time.
I've heard some retired people say they retire and everybody suddenly thinks they have all the free time in the world.
Well, there is some of that. You do become the go-to person whenever someone needs something. But still, that's only a few hours a day. I was only writing about maybe an hour or even less a day, like during my lunch hour at work or something like that. So that's been multiplied 2 or 3 times.
That's great. So what's your average? Are you one of those, I like to write first thing in the morning people, writing as the sun comes up, writing in the dark of night? What time of day do you find you get most of your writing done?
Probably at night, but I don't have a specific time. I usually write in small chunks. I don't sit down for, like one of those discipline hours who dedicates 3 or 4 hours to it a day. I'm not like that.
Do you usually have multiple projects you're working on at the same time?
I'm usually thinking about multiple projects, and I might pick up something and work on a little, but mostly I stay concentrated on one story.
So everybody says they get their ideas, in the shower or when they're not thinking about writing. Is this true for you as well? And if so, where did you ever come up with the idea for Obedience?
My dad said he wanted to be able to read something I write. He was a little embarrassed about the LGBT story and some of those other ones. So he asked me to write a biblical story about family. And of course, there aren't that many positive family stories in the Bible. So I went with one of the oldest.
Okay. How did you develop Ham? How did he change through the book? Or was it the people around him that changed?
Some of them changed. He was pretty consistent. The most important thing to him was his own family. And he adored his wife. He had defied his father to marry her, which was unusual for that time period. So he was changed in relation to his relationship with her. If there was any kind of threat or problem with that, then that's where he would have an epiphany or go through some kind of change in his life.
And you made this a generational story, as in there's more than one generation of people involved in the book?
Yes. The other characters are Ham's children and the children of his brothers, because, like I said, they are going to be the core parents, essentially, for the rest of the world. So there was a lot of getting together or, flirting on the ark or something like that, and then the mating when they landed.
Were they overjoyed to get off that boat after a year?
Oh, yes, definitely.
I know I would be. I can't imagine being cooped up on a boat for a year. I mean, I know the men and women of the Navy do it all the time, but I still couldn't imagine it.
Right, and the women and men of the Navy don't have a smelly menagerie.
Exactly, and all those animals to feed and care for and everything else.
Yeah.
So how did you grow as a writer by writing this story? What was the biggest change in you and your writing?
Probably developing a really strong idea and being able to carry it through. Before that, I had, like I said, written a chapter or two at a time on writing websites and gotten critique as I went along. So this was learning to trust myself without having to have that constant validation.
All right. So it helped you grow and gain self-confidence?
Yes. I do feel a lot more confident now, especially after you've actually published something. And I haven't had a lot of readers, but I have had some who didn't know me, and they have spoken well of the book.
Now, I have a friend, another author friend, who hates the term aspiring writer. She thinks if you write, whether it's published or not, you're a writer. Now, you can be an aspiring author because author denotes publication.
Right.
What would you say about that?
That makes sense. And there are some people very good writers who don't even necessarily aspire to publication. They just enjoy what they're doing. I think, though, for a lot of people, you still want to know that you have put something out there that everyone's going to see, possibly long after you're gone. And for that, of course, you would need to be seen more closely or more widely.
I've also heard it said that to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. So do you have a favorite author?
Not so much now. When I was growing up, it was a woman who wrote biblical fiction. Well, she wrote historical fiction, Taylor Caldwell. But I haven't read her in a lot of years. I do tend, like I said, to read historical fiction of one kind or another. But I also like a lot of different genres.
I've been told I'll read anything, even the cereal box, if it sits in front of me long enough, so...
Oh, sure.
And trust me, I've gotten more than one glare from my husband. He's like, "You read the cereal box yesterday. I assure you it has not changed," and he moves it out of my way. So, is there a message in the novel you want your readers to grasp?
I think just to question things a little more carefully and not give in to the prejudices and think for yourself.
Okay. Do you see a sequel coming up for this, or is this kind of a standalone?
I had thought at one time of doing a series of retellings of biblical stories. Don't know if I'm going to do that or not, but if I do, I would probably start with Abraham.
Okay. So how did you become interested in doing historical fiction in general?
I'm always interested in a new way of thinking about something that happened in the past.
Like a new point of view, or picking on some little detail? What is it that motivates you to retell these time-age tales?
Usually my feeling that there's been a mistake or misinterpretation or something like that, and you want people to think about it differently.
So what kind of research did you do for your novel?
I don't do a lot of research before I begin writing. Like I said, I just want to start the story. As I'm writing and there comes something that I want to include in it that I don't know a lot about, then I will stop and go to Google, find books that I already have, check books out of the library, whatever I can to fill in those gaps.
I think some of the best books I've ever written were well-researched, and they had some of the most unusual little details. So
you always need to learn something from historical fiction.
So are you the type of writer, do you write everything out by hand, or do you write on a computer?
I do both, but I think my ideas flow more freely when I'm actually writing by hand. It just doubles the process, because after you have written it, then you have to type it into the computer. Whereas if you just type it in automatically, then you can get technically more done.
If you could spend time with any character from your book, who would it be and why?
It would be Ham's wife.
Why?
She was smart and capable, and if she had lived in a different time, she would have been indomitable.
Was there any point in time where you said, "Oh my gosh, I just want to slap this character"? Is there any one of your characters you just really didn't get along with?
I had troubles with Noah.
Was that a hard thing for you to deal with, given I'm sure, even though the story is told from Ham's perspective, that Noah has to be right there most of the time?
Well, it wasn't. A lot of the time was spent with Ham and his family. And Noah was over here on the side. But it's hard not to have a problem and to not ask people to rethink a man, of course, who condemned his son and a grandson.
Okay. So what's your favorite coffee shop treat?
I like banana muffins.
Oh, yum. What do you like to drink with your banana muffins?
I'm a tea drinker, not coffee.
Well, we have tea here in the coffee shop as well. I don't know a good coffee shop that doesn't keep a selection of teas on hand. Truth be told, I drink coffee in the morning personally, and then on a cold winter's evening, you will find that hot, steaming cup of tea in my hand with my book.
Yeah.
I find something warm and soothing about wrapping my hands around that steamy, hot mug of tea. In the morning, it's the smell of wake up and face the day. In the evening, switching to tea kind of soothes me and makes me want to relax.
Right. It adds to the mellowness of the moment because you don't have the bitterness of coffee.
So editing is often called slaying your darlings. Is there any one scene that you had to take out that you absolutely hated removing?
No, that's one thing about self-publishing. You don't necessarily have to slay your darlings. If it doesn't work in one spot, maybe you can make it work in another.
That's a good point about self-publishing. Now, how did you come up with the title?
It was the original idea of the story that the characteristic that was most important for a son was obedience. And Ham tried, but there was just something about him that was always it wasn't going to work out. As I said, he was the one destined to disappoint.
So does that make Ham a sympathetic character?
I think so. And like I said, I think when you think about the stories about him that were passed out around in the Bible, they're kind of silly. So it's hard not to think that he didn't get a bad rap.
He does kind of get a bad rap in the Bible, I will admit.
Yeah.
So you kind of wanted to tweak it a little bit so he didn't.
Well, I wanted people to rethink it and also to consider it from the standpoint of this bad rap is what, as I said, then allowed some people to justify conquering another or to enslave because of the language and the curse.
Okay. Well, we have reached the point in time that it is time to pay those radio station bills. Yes, we have reached that wonderful commercial break. Sorry, guys, but it keeps me on air. So, I am going to pour Vera some more hot water for her tea, and I will see you guys on the other side of the commercial break.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@KLRNradio.com.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
All right, I thank all of you for hanging in there with us while we paid those ever-prevalent radio station bills. And yes, my guest Vera is sitting here with her hot tea, and we are discussing her book, Obedience. Now, Vera, you mentioned using critique partners. How did you find your critique partners?
Like I said, I was on writing websites. So in that regard, you find some of them. You read each other's writing. You're participating in review communities. Someone likes a particular review or they write to you and thank you for it. You exchange and you become good friends that way sometimes. Some other people I met through a contest site where we read each other's books and then got in touch with each other. And when you had something new, you would send it to them and they send you yours. And also, I'm a member of a local writing group in Danville, Kentucky.
What local writing group? For anybody in the in Danville that thinks they're all alone out there sitting at the keyboard.
We meet at the library on the second Monday of the month.
And what's the name of the writing group?
We don't actually have a title. It's just actually, we never have given ourselves a title. It's
just the Danville Writers.
Uh-huh.
All right. I think it's great. So have you gotten a lot of support from the writing community?
I have. Like I said, I usually don't want my family and friends to read what I've written until it's completed. So my writing friends are the ones that I rely on to read for me, help me to figure out what needs to be changed, help me design my covers. They have helped me write query letters, and I do the same for them.
That's great. So trust me, I've heard tell of thousands of rejections, and then you find that one agent that just loves your book. So how long have you been querying?
About 2 years.
Wow. Well, perseverance will win out.
That was actually one of my writing site names was Persevera.
Maybe it's an upcoming book title, too. Who knows?
Someone said it sounded like a superhero.
It would fit well with Obedience. Obedience, Persevere. What other one could we come up with? Can we make a trilogy here? Yeah. I'm like I said, I can't write. And people always tell me, I'm surrounded by writers. I feel like I'm on this little tiny raft surrounded by writers. They're always going, write. And to me, putting a pen to paper or fingers to keyboard feels like a punishment.
Yeah, it's a commitment because there's not a lot you can do in the while you're doing that. You can't accomplish much else while you're sitting down to write, and that drives a lot of people crazy.
Well, I know one thing I seem to have found I can do with every activity, or nearly everything, especially at my desk. Exactly, drink my coffee. I will admit it, I'm addicted to caffeine.
I have tried to combine writing and exercise sometimes. I put a table on my gliding machine and write as I'm, pedaling.
That sounds interesting. Did that work out well for you?
It worked out pretty well. I can do 2 or 3 pages at least that way.
Oh, that's a new tip I hadn't heard. So
it's not intense exercise. I mean, you can't do it while you're jogging, obviously, because it'd be too jolting. But this was a glider, so I was just moving my legs back and forth.
So what tips would you give a new writer insofar as where to write, and where is your favorite place to write?
I usually write in bed. Just prop my laptop on my little table there on my bed. I have a hard time sitting at a desk after having done it for 27 years before I retired. So
continue.
I prefer just the nice little comfortable place where I can look out at the sunshine and it's my little oasis.
I think we all like to be in our comfy little hidey hole. What can I say? I know right. I do. Now, obviously I'm not a writer, but I love to read in bed.
Uh-huh.
Have my pajamas on. I'm all curled up in bed with my nice soft fuzzy blanket, in a book.
Right.
So did writing at a desk feel too much like you were back in the office, back at work?
Yeah, it just felt like I don't have to do this anymore. I can do this wherever I want to. So I like to go outside and write too. Usually with that's pen and paper.
Yeah, laptops have batteries.
Right.
So what websites would you suggest new writers check out to try and get in with this writing community you mentioned?
I used Fiction Press, and I also wrote on some fan fiction.
I think fan fiction is fun because it gives you a chance to take the well-known tale of whatever and twist it.
Right. Yeah. I've noticed that it influences a lot of what I do because sometimes I've been working on some fairy tales, and in fan fiction, you tend to see possible relationships with anybody. So some people were a little stunned by some of the relationships I was writing in these fairy tales, but that was my fan fiction influence.
I say get your inspiration wherever you can find it.
Yes.
So how long does it take you? You mentioned you have several other works. Does it take you about 2 years to do a book start to finish?
No.
How long?
The actual first draft or whatever might take a couple of months. And then I turn it over to other people to get some opinion on it. I might take a chapter to my writers group meetings and get their feedback on it and then change it that way in the process. Maybe overall 6 months.
And were your biggest cheerleaders the writing community?
Yes.
So other writers are usually always willing to help out that person who's struggling?
I found it, I have an extremely good group, and we're very supportive of each other. You know, you can find some, I guess, that might be jealous or something like that if someone had more success than they did, and we haven't been like that. We do have a member or two who has been more successful than the other, and we're still cheering them on, and we still offer them our opinions, in spite of the fact that they're also going to get opinions from their publishers or whatever.
I think it's great. So have you ever faced the dreaded writer's block?
I have, but since I've not ever really been under a particular deadline or something like that, it doesn't feel like that. It's just saying I have something else to do for a while. I'm retired. I don't put stress on myself anymore.
So what are your favorite things to do when you're not writing?
I like to exercise. I'm a news junkie. I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter, so I spend time with them. Or any one of my 4 children. It's hard to get all 4 of them together at one time.
I think that's great. Now, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
I've discovered water aerobics. I do that 2 or 3 times a week.
That's a great way to get your exercise and beat the heat all at the same time.
That's right.
So are you planning to do another self-published book if you don't get a nibble with the query letters? Or what's the path ahead of you look like?
I might. I'm not sure. It's I haven't latched on to the secrets for generating a lot of readers or anything like that. I tried a book tour. It was probably not the type one for my genre, so it didn't result in any new reads. So I like the idea of having an agent or a publisher who can help me with those aspects of it.
If nothing else, that quiet guiding hand in the background whispering in your ear.
Right. Yes, reassuring you sometimes.
I think we all need a little reassurance now and then.
Oh, sure.
So what did it feel like when you finally held that printed copy of Obedience in your hand after 2 years of work?
That felt pretty good. I only got a few copies at a time, but I've heard some people say that they couldn't stop looking at it or something like that. I tried to be a little more low-key, but everybody that came in had to see it, whether they want to or not.
Well, I think it's your work. You should be proud of it.
My baby.
I've heard many writers and authors describe their work as their babies.
Yes.
So do you have any advice for that person who's just starting querying?
The biggest advice would be to use whomever you use to read your book, to read your query also. I did originally send one out without any kind of consult or opinions from other people. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. So I think in every aspect of the publishing, you have to have some people that you can depend on.
Well, that goes back to that supportive writers community that you seem to have found in your neighborhood, and I think that's an outstanding thing.
Mm-hmm. In my neighborhood and also online, I have friends I've never met, but we talk every day.
So word salad. So any last comments or advice for those struggling writers or authors out there that are in the same boat as you are if they haven't found that writing community to commiserate and celebrate with?
Writing is a solitary profession anyway. I think it's important to have the people around you to pull you out of yourself, more so possibly than other areas, because with photography, you have to be engaged with your subjects or something like that. Since with writing, you're sometimes developing whole new worlds anyway, it's possible to get very caught up in just yourself. And you have to expand beyond that.
So did you do a lot of world building in Noah's Ark, describing the Ark and all that in great detail?
I did some, but I was trained as a reporter, so I give the information that you need. I try to do it lyrically, but it's not overwhelming.
Okay, so you stick with the who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Prettily.
Well, it means you probably don't have a lot of outtakes.
Right.
Well, I give everyone the chance of the end of the interview to give out their social media information. Why don't you take an opportunity to do that now?
Okay. Obedience is on Amazon as VG Kilgore. That's Kilgore. I'm on Facebook as Vera Garns-Burris. I also have an author page under the same name, and I can be found on Twitter at Vera Ann Burris. And I'm on Instagram. I don't remember. I think it's Vera G. Burris.
All right. And for those of you trying to track me down, you can find me at on Twitter at Jessie's POV. Or
I've seen you there.
Well, thank you. Or you can shoot me a line at the station, Jessie, Jessie, at KLRNRadio.com. And there is a website, jessiescoffeeshop.com, where all of my episodes are there, along with a brief blurb and author bio telling you more about the book with each episode. So if you missed your favorite episode, do not despair. It's waiting for you there. On that note, I think it is time to grab that cup of obedience off the table and pour myself a cup of coffee and settle down to read the book.